Picture this, it's spring, the season has turned, the roads are dry, and traditionally this is the time when kings go out to battle. It's the era of conquest. But there is one king, arguably the most famous king in history, who decides to stay home.
That is the pivotal moment, isn't it? It's the decision that changes everything. We are talking about a man at the absolute height of his power. He has armies, he has victory, he has wealth. But instead of leading his men, he's pacing around his palace in Jerusalem. And that idleness? That is where the trouble begins.
It really reinforces the old saying about idle hands. So, he's on the rooftop, looking out over the city, and that's when the narrative takes a very dark turn. It starts with a glance, but it doesn't end there.
Exactly. He sees a woman bathing. And what's fascinating here is the power dynamic. He doesn't just admire her, he inquires about her. He finds out she is the daughter of a prominent man and, more importantly, the wife of one of his elite soldiers, a man named Uriah. But the king doesn't care. He sends messengers and essentially takes her. It's not a request, it's a command.
And that's the part that often gets glossed over. This isn't a romance, it's an abuse of authority. But reality hits hard when she sends word back to him later. She's pregnant. Now the king is in full damage control mode.
Right. And this is where he transforms from a flawed man into a calculating politician. He calls the husband, Uriah, back from the front lines. The plan is simple. Get Uriah to go home, sleep with his wife, and pass the child off as his own. It's a cover-up.
But Uriah? He's the moral compass in this story, isn't he? He refuses to play along, even though he doesn't know he's being played.
It is deeply ironic. The king is corrupt, but the soldier is pure. Uriah basically sleeps on the palace doorstep. He says, "How can I go home and enjoy myself when the ark, the army, and my commander are sleeping in open fields?" He refuses to break solidarity with his fellow soldiers.
That has to be infuriating for the king. He even tries to get Uriah drunk the next night, hoping his defenses will drop, but the man still won't go home. So the cover-up fails. What happens next is, well, it's chilling.
It's cold-blooded murder. The king writes a letter to his general Joab. The letter says, "Put Uriah in the fiercest part of the fighting, then pull back so he gets struck down." And here's the most tragic detail. He hands that letter to Uriah. The man carries his own death warrant back to the front lines.
That is devastating, and it works. Uriah dies, the king marries the widow, and he thinks he's got away with it. He thinks the secret is buried.
But you can't bury something like that. Not forever. Enter the prophet Nathan. And I love how Nathan handles this. He doesn't storm in screaming accusations. He tells a story. He traps the king with a parable.
The story about the rich man and the poor man, right?
Yes. Nathan describes a rich man with huge flocks who steals a poor man's one beloved little lamb to feed a guest. The king is outraged. He has a visceral reaction to injustice, which is hypocritical considering what he just did. He shouts that the rich man deserves to die.
And then Nathan drops the hammer.
4 words that shatter the king's world. You are the man. The disguise falls off. The king is broken. He admits his guilt immediately. He doesn't make excuses. And while he is told he won't die for this sin, the consequences are severe. The sword will never depart from his house. Violence will plague his family forever.
And the child, the baby born from this affair?
The child gets sick, and this leads to a really strange psychological moment. While the baby is dying, the king is a wreck, fasting, weeping, lying on the ground. His servants are terrified to even talk to him. But the moment the child dies, he gets up, washes his face, changes his clothes, and eats a meal.
That confused his servants, and honestly, it confuses me too. Usually, you mourn after the death.
It's a profound insight into his character. He explains that while the child was alive, there was hope. Maybe God would be gracious. But once death arrived, it was final. He accepted the reality instantly. He said, "I will go to him, but he will not return to me." It's a brutal, pragmatic acceptance.
It's almost like he realized that no amount of tears could reverse the cost of his actions.
Precisely. And life goes on, but it's different. He eventually conquers the enemy city, Rabbah, and takes their crown, a massive gold crown weighing a talent. He wins the war, but he has lost his moral standing.
It's such a complex ending. He's back on the throne wearing a massive crown, victorious in battle, yet his house is cursed because of what happened in secret.
That's the lingering lesson here. You can have the power, You can even have forgiveness, but you cannot escape the consequences. The king kept his throne, but the shadow of that rooftop moment followed him for the rest of his life.
A heavy price for a moment of idleness, it really makes you wonder about the hidden costs of the choices we make when we think no one is watching. That's all the time we have for today. Thanks for listening. God bless.